Your host, Michael J. How are you folks doing? How are the people? So, today, what's today, November 25? Let me check on my Cisco phone. November 26th. November 26th, Tuesday in North America. The sun's fading in, the sun's fading out. Typical November weather. So, we're going to talk, all of a sudden, overnight, Trump talks about 25% tariffs on Canada, on Mexico, and on China. And this is supposed to stop drugs and immigration. Like, folks, I don't know how to break this to you, but I was hanging around this lawyer last number of years. Guy's in his early 90s, seen a lot. And one of his major beefs with Trump, well, first, the political system in the United States is the fact that it has no essence of time. It's continually changing, so there's no stability on the political front. And one of the things he said, well, there's just no way the people of America, or this is a guy in his 90s now, the people of America are going to vote for Trump. He's an illiterate. And this is what his stand was. There's just no way the people will vote for Trump because he is an illiterate. Well, we stand to be corrected. Yikes, you say. What do you mean? Well, first of all, he's hammering out these tariffs. So now we're going to put a little video up for you. A little video for you.
So when it comes to Trump, do you dislike his policies or him as a person or both?
I don't dislike Trump as a person in the sense that I've never met the guy. So I think he has a lot of personality traits that make him completely unsuited to being president. And also, I think his policy prescriptions, to the extent that they exist and he understands them, he still doesn't know how tariffs work. We're 8 years into this thing, 9 years in. He still thinks China pays the tariffs when they're paid by American companies.
Yeah, I've seen him talk about tariffs.
Very confused guy.
Wait, so China's not paying tariffs right now?
The tariffs are paid by the American companies.
And see, here's a young guy, probably quite intelligent by the standards of how we measure intelligence. And he doesn't understand how tariffs work. Do you understand where I'm coming from here? You've got a guy that's interviewing this guy, David Pakman. A lot know David Pakman. A lot may agree, disagree with him. We're just talking tariffs here. The information we're providing is factual information. It's not fictional information. This is factual information, not fiction. So the young guy interviewing him, intelligent guy by today's standards and how you measure intelligence, but he doesn't understand tariffs. And this guy Pakman's got to explain tariffs to him.
That import the Chinese goods. That's the way it's such a fundamental, and I see you looking a little confused on this one. Yeah, I'm confused. This is the way tariffs work. What Trump did is place tariffs on Chinese imports. By the time the imports get here, China's been paid for this stuff. Maybe they get net 120 terms, right? But in a sense, China has already transacted. The American company who brings the goods in pays the tariffs.
So when it comes to Trump, do you dislike his policies or him as a person or both?
I don't dislike Trump as a person in the sense that I've never met the guy. So I think he has a lot of personality traits that make him completely unsuited to being president. And also, I think his policy prescriptions, to the extent that they exist and he understands them, he still doesn't know how tariffs work. We're 8 years into this thing, 9 years in. He still thinks China pays the tariffs when they're paid by American companies.
Yeah, I've seen him talk about tariffs.
Very confused guy.
Wait, so China's not paying tariffs right now?
The tariffs are paid by the American companies that import the Chinese goods. That's the way it's such a fundamental, and I see you looking a little confused on this
one.
This is the way tariffs work. What Trump did is place tariffs on Chinese imports. By the time the imports get here, China's been paid for this stuff. Maybe they get net 120 terms, right? But in a sense, China has already transacted. The American company who brings the goods in pays the tariffs.
So when it comes to Trump.
And here's the other thing, folks. What does tariffs cause? Inflation. Can you believe it? It causes inflation. Tariffs cause inflation. So if you go back to his first term, 2016 to 2020, you had a couple inflationary factors at play. And one of the most important ones was the Midwest farmers' soybean. So he put tariffs on China for soybeans. The bailout to the farmers by the federal government with taxpayer dollars was more than the bailout was to the car manufacturers during the 2008 financial crisis. Do you hear me? The bailout to the farmers in the early tenor of Trump's fight using tariffs against China, the soybean, mostly soybean, but the agriculture, farming Midwest, the bailout to the Midwest farmers was more than the bailout to the car manufacturers during the financial crisis of 2008. That created an inflationary cycle as well. And then you had a pandemic. Well, you know what happened with the pandemic. Huge stimulus checks went out. But before they went out, Trump delayed them. Well, the American people needed them. Come on, people needed to survive. So, but before they went out, they got delayed because Trump wanted his signature on the checks. So, a lot of people think the money came from Trump. No, it didn't. It came from the federal government. And people just do not get it. So now we have what we call a trade situation that's starting to percolate to the forefront. And this is Trump. Early this morning, this is November 26, 2024, Trump tweets on the financial markets. Now let's look at this. Okay, so this was posted an hour ago. May not agree with who posted, but we don't care about who posted. We just care about factual evidence to support our discussion here, not fiction. Anybody can put fiction out there, and if you believe anything, you just believe in a lot of fiction, because that's a lot of what goes out there. Factual information requires work and effort, and it's boring. Hey, it's not sensationalism. It's not going to do great ratings. So here you go. So now, let's look at this.
Higher on Monday after Dow closes at another record, and they were crediting in the article Donald Trump's Treasury Secretary pick, who was a George Soros protege turned hedge fund manager.
What? George Soros protege? What have the Republicans been saying? Do not vote Democrat, George Soros. Do not vote Democrat, George Soros. Meanwhile, can you wrap your head around this, kids? I don't mean to speak down, but can you wrap your head around this, people? Now, George Soros, former associate, now put into the Trump administration as one of the cast of characters that's going to deal with the financial markets, makes a statement. Let's go back to the video.
But then after Donald Trump via social media posted about tariffing Mexico, Canada, and China, now the stock futures slipped. And it goes, after Dow closes at another record. Like, all you had to do is do literally nothing and let Biden's economy roll. But no, he's incapable of doing that. So then Bill Ackman, a billionaire who's perpetually on Twitter whining and complaining, he posts the following. To be clear, according to Trump, the 25% tariffs will not be implemented, or if implemented, will be removed once Mexico and Canada stop the flow of illegal
So here, Bill Ackman, you see the tweet. Now the guy's got to make up excuses for Trump. You know, you've seen this pattern from 2016 forward. You'd think by now it's 2024, somebody would have corrected this. And what do I mean by somebody? The person that was doing it back in 2016 to 2020, you think they'd notice these patterns of their behavior and change them. But no. And you people just buy into it. Now, this Bill Ackman, he's got to make excuses for Donald Trump. And he says, to be clear, according to Trump, the 25% tariffs will not be implemented. Or if implemented, and when they are implemented, will create inflation. The same thing, this guy created the inflation problem to begin with, was part of it because of the pandemic, and nobody had control of the pandemic. It was a worldwide situation. It created inflation, bottom line. But nobody understands that. Some do, but just a minority, very small minority. So no matter what, even if the tariffs are implemented and then removed, inflation is going to be triggered. Just can't avoid it. Now, once Mexico and Canada stop the flow of illegal immigrants, well, here's the thing. The illegal immigrant situation, you've been scared into thinking it's a huge problem, especially from Canada. It's not from the northern border. We don't have a lot of people flowing in, period, to the USA as far as illegal immigrants. But the fentanyl is a real issue into the U.S. It's a huge issue. Fentanyl is a huge issue. But here's the problem. The majority of the fentanyl coming into the U.S. is coming in from U.S. citizens to be used by U.S. citizens. Wrap your head around this one, kids. Oh, I shouldn't say kids. Folks, wrap your head around this one, folks. The fentanyl coming into the U.S. is being brought in mostly by Americans to be used by Americans. So you're going to put tariffs in place to penalize your own people. You're going to penalize your own people because you're going to trigger inflation. It's not going to change the real problem. It's not going to fix the real problem. So you're not fixing it. You're just buying into a hyperbolic misrepresentations. And this is how the guy got elected. This is how the guy continues to live. Because you've got a salesman as a president. You got a salesman. You got a PR guy. You don't have a real president, a guy that's going to fix things. 6 bankruptcies in business. May not like. This is the truth. The guy's not a business success. The only business success he was with The Apprentice. And the fact is, he was propped up to look good because the producers wanted to do that. That was what they had to do to make the show successful, and that's what it did. Bottom line, you, the people, have been conned. But don't take my word for it. This is something you got to figure out. It's just my point of view, and I stand by my point of view, and I'm open to any dialogue that will change that using thought and reason. Remember, reason's a very important ingredient.
Immigrants and fentanyl into the U.S. In other words, at real Donald Trump is going to use tariffs as a weapon to achieve economic and political outcomes which are in the best interest of America, fulfilling his America First policy. As our editor-in-chief Ron Filipkowski writes, here is Bill Ackman, a billionaire friend of Donald Trump, trying to talk his other billionaire rich friends off the ledge before markets open tomorrow, after Trump announces tonight, that's when that happened last night, that he intends to impose massive tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China. They'll have to make excuses for him. Well, he really didn't mean this. What he was trying to actually say was this. If you are the president of the United States and you're making irresponsible posts via social media that people have to interpret, and by the way, I read what Donald Trump posted. I see how dangerous it is. You see how dangerous it is. And it's based on a false premise to begin with, because most fentanyl that comes into the United States is coming from Americans. And 99% of consumers of the opioids are Americans as well. So this is some never-ending perpetual war that Donald Trump wants to create in order to inflict economic hardship on we the people, on you. That's what Trump and Elon Musk said. They said they want to cause economic hardship on you. Patrick Tomlinson writes, so Canada and Mexico are...
So the hardship is created. It's going to affect the people. Doesn't matter where you are. It's going to affect the people in Canada. It's going to affect the people in the U.S. It accomplishes nothing except for a false narrative that's created to create fear in you, created to make you think he's doing something for you, but it's a non sequitur. Well, actually, I shouldn't say it's a non sequitur, because it is, because all it does is create more pain unnecessary. Wrap your heads around this one. Unnecessary pain and suffering. That is correct. It creates unnecessary pain and suffering.
Are our largest trading partners among our closest allies as well. They will have no choice now but to level something called retaliatory tariffs on our exports to protect their own economies. So now American companies that export get screwed.
Whoa, hold on a second. Just back up here. Let's just back up here. Let's look at this here. Do you see this last little part right here? We saw a near collapse of America farming during Trump's last trade war. You're like, what? Yeah. Between 2016 to 2020, at the beginning of this broadcast, not the beginning of time, but just at the beginning of this here video, I mentioned how the American farmers and tariffs put against China created a huge bailout of about $26 billion to the American farmers, which was a bigger bailout than to the car manufacturers of the 2008 crisis by the Obama administration. Helped create an inflationary cycle with the pandemic that reared its ugly head during the Biden administration, because supply and demand also because of the pandemic. But people, you don't get it. You don't pay attention to what's going on. But that's okay. You're busy living your lives, because the way lives are now is you have to work so hard to make a living, you don't really have time to live. You're working to live and not living to work. And this is a serious imbalance, and this is something we're going to come into later. And it requires a different way of thinking, from absolute terms to infinite terms. And this I'm going to bring up later in other conversations. But you saw a near collapse of American farming. And guess what? That farming never came back. Once the damage was done, maybe a small percentage came back, but once the damage was done, it never came back. It was permanent. Just saying, folks.
Our exports to protect their own economies. So now American companies that export get screwed. American companies that import then get screwed because it's a tax on them. And now American companies that export get screwed because now they're confronting tariffs. So this just cycles out of control. As Patrick Tomlinson said, we saw a near collapse of American farming during Trump's last trade war. This is suicide. This other account, this Claire McCaskill chart updates, goes, the mass economic devastation that the average farmer is about to feel in possible retaliatory tariffs won't be helped by whatever Republicans are doing with the half-baked farm bill. So then what you have to do now is say, well, we've just screwed over all of our farmers. So then what do? You then create subsidies for your own farmers, which then guess what that does? That then increases the deficit to record levels because you are, again, subsidizing industries that you are crushing by this made-up fake trade war that you are now imposing, which just
not just increases deficits, creates an inflationary cycle upon that.
Screws everybody. Tristan Snell goes, a tariff is a tax. The company pays it, then passes it along. The cost as a price increase to you. Trump is now raising your taxes already 25%.
Okay, so there you go. You want lower taxes. That's why you don't bring the Democrats in, because they tax you. You want lower taxes. That's why you go Republican. Well, this guy has not even gotten into power yet. He's only the president-elect. He's not in the driver's seat yet. And he's already raising your taxes by 25%. What? Yes. But you knew this, or you should have known this, providing you paid attention. I'm not trying to talk down to you, but all the signs have always been there. You have to look up and see them.
And in January, at the Transit Guy writes, you've got to admit, a majority of the country voting for a man because the prices of goods are too high, only for him to increase prices on his first day in office, has to be regarded as one of the greatest social experiments of all time.
It's not a social experiment, folks. Understand. He just doesn't know any better. And he sold you a bill of goods because he's a salesman. And you bought it. You lapped it up. You bought it. That's really what's happened here. That's the reality. Let's just stick with the facts. So this is where it's at. You're welcome to post and chat with respect to any indifferences that you may have with my opinions and commentaries. That's most welcome, because having dialogue is very important for all parties to develop better understandings. It's just simple as that. Now, I did another thing here. I wonder if it's... No, maybe it's not there. Where is it? Where is it? Where did I put it? Is it over here? Oh, yeah, here it is. Here. Okay. So I did a search just, before I started this video. Trump plans new tariffs on China, Canada, and Mexico. China stocks shrug off Trump tariff threat. Bloomberg Television. Trump vows more tariffs on China, Mexico, Canada. The Asia Trade, Bloomberg. 6 years ago, U.S. soybean sales to China down 94% due to Trump tariffs. Let's going back. Let's take a walk back in time. U.S. soybean Soybean sales to China down 94% due to Trump tariffs. 6 years ago. Soybean farmers decry Trump's trade war with China. 2 months ago. Farmer says Trump trade war with China cost him thousands. Maybe he's talking about a third generation dairy farmer. Not sure where that's gone. Oh, this one here, 6 years ago. The trade war has been devastating for soybean farmers. This is 6 years ago. Fallout for farmers, 6 years ago. Chinese soybean tariffs. 9 hours ago. Trump's shocking plan to impose tariffs on Chinese imports. Beijing vows to retaliate. Yeah, guess what they do? They do retaliate. And then it's a tit-tat, tit for tat, tit for tat, tit for tat. Nobody wins. Everybody suffers. 6 years ago, Minnesota soybean farmers decry Trump's trade war. 6 years ago, U.S. farmers sticking with Donald Trump over soybean tariffs. For now. Till they find out how it hurts them. Plus, it's irrevocable. Irrevocable means that you cannot change it back. Just in case you didn't know. So this is what's happening. Trump vowing tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China. Hugely significant. So you create confusion. You create a crisis. Then you provide a fix for the crisis. And then you're the hero. Villain, victim, hero. You understand what's going on here? You are the villain, you create the victim, and then you become the hero. Just the way it is, folks. So, hopefully I'm back to front and center. So here it is. This is what's going on. Nothing you can do about it. Not now. That's the president-elect. You ain't seen nothing yet. It's only just started. So I'm going to leave that with you. Please feel free to comment. I'll do my best to respond back. And remember, these are the opinions of the host, myself. Your opinions may be different. You can use the comment section. We can create a dialogue, create maybe a different understanding. But I'm just showing you that of what was and is. What did not work 6 years ago, and you're seeing the same pattern come together into the forefront now. So, love and peace to y'all. Take care. And happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Sending love and healing and peace. Love you. Ciao.